Everyone. I'm Stephen Garvey, founder, leader of National Citizens Alliance. Um, I'm just going to rehash the previous presentation on policy comparison. I was getting some technical issues at my end, which were distracting me, so I want to make sure I'm very clear on this comparison. And I did have an opportunity to look at the comments on the previous live submission, so I can address those as well. And the National Citizens Alliance will be doing policy comparisons quite frequently leading up to the election in 2019. Policies are important. The policy details are very important. You got to look at the details. It's like when you're signing a document at the bank, they always say, look at the fine print. So, as a voter, as a member of the Canadian electorate, it's the same when it comes to parties. You have to look at the fine print, get to the get to the substance, if there is any. And also, you need to consider another thing about policy is what is not in the policy. It's not only what is in the policy, but what is not. So, our purpose is to help educate the Canadian electorate to allow them to make a better decision. And if you agree with our policies, then we encourage you to support us. And if you don't, you don't. And we'd be happy to hear from you. Give us feedback. Give us policy feedback. We're a very open party. We're open to listening. We obviously listen to our members, our supporters, and we're open to listening to the public, which we do as well. And we're guided by the facts and what is in the best interest of the Canadian people. And so, by all means, give us your policy feedback. And everything, like I said, is based on facts and what is more reasonably in the best interest of our people. That's what guides us. So we will go right, we will go left, we will go center. It doesn't matter as long as that's the best possible position for our people, our country. That's what guides us. And as I mentioned already, there's two important events coming up. They are vigils that the NCA is organizing for the South African farmers and their families, and we estimate around 4,000 have been murdered, many of them tortured, gang rapes on women, rapes of children. It's horrendous, everyone. And in addition, we estimate that around 70,000 white South Africans have been murdered since the end of apartheid in 1994. So, our purpose is to bring awareness to the South African farmers and what they're going through. In addition, this social Marxist government in South Africa, they want to redistribute land and they want to speed it up, which means take the land of the farmers and do not give them compensation. And this is something we can't support. I know that things weren't fair during apartheid, but these South African farmers took raw land and made it into value. Taking their land away is not only going to hurt the economy, it's just grossly unjust, unfair, because they developed this raw land. And there's no way it should be taken away. Um, Bare minimum, they got to fully compensate them. And right now, they're not willing to do that. So these are, as I mentioned in the previous broadcast, I just want to bring it up. And this is taking place at 12 p.m. The first vigil is, and it's at the South African High Commission in Ottawa, 15 Sussex Drive. And we encourage you to come out. And this will be just a vigil raising awareness about the plight of South African farmers. And uh, I think what really stands out with the South African farmers is the hideous, the grotesque, the inhumane attacks on them. Just utter cruel treatment, the barbaric torture, the the molestation, rape of children, the gang rape, murder of women, innocent women. It's just it's something um, I've never witnessed before. Uh, I think it's one of the worst injustices going on in the world today, and we need to speak up as Canadians. So this is an opportunity to come out and mourn the loss and help raise awareness on this issue. So we encourage you to come out on November 12th. That's a holiday, statutory holiday. And for the Ottawa event, we encourage you to reach out to Mark Dixon, who's helping to organize that, who's actually the chief organizer. And there's his email address there. His phone number is 613-869-0524. Please coordinate with Mark if you're planning to come to the consulate in Ottawa. In addition, we're going to be holding a vigil in Calgary. It's going to be at the City Hall. And that's going to be a candlelight vigil at 7 p.m. to 8:30. We encourage anyone who feels any compassion towards the South African farmers and to come out. And we're gonna extend onto this vigil a reach out to the 7 Coptic Christians that were murdered on Friday, November 2nd, by radical Islamists in Egypt. They just gunned down 2 buses full of innocent people. 7 Coptic Christians were murdered, and 14 of them were injured. This is unacceptable. This is sickness. So we're going to extend the vigil to reach out to the Coptic Christians who are under persecution in the Middle East. In addition, we're going to extend out to the Jewish people that were slaughtered in the U.S. at a synagogue. And this is unjust. This is something we do not tolerate. These are people worshiping in their place of worship, and they were gunned down, and this is wrong, everyone. So we will be extending out to that. We have zero tolerance for this extremism. So we encourage you to come out and show solidarity with the National Citizens Alliance on these issues. You know, we need to speak up as Canadians. We can't be silent. We need to speak up. We need to show that we care for these people facing utter persecution, oppression. And this is our opportunity on Monday, November 12th, Calgary City Hall, 7 p.m. So please come out. It'll be a candlelight vigil. There'll be some speeches educating people about what's going on and the need to speak up. So if you feel any compassion for these people in Egypt, the Coptic Christians, the innocent Jewish people that were slaughtered in their synagogue, if you feel any compassion for the South African farmers and what they're going through, we encourage you to come out. And let's pay our respects to these people and let's raise awareness so this stuff does not continue. And I'm going to shift now. I'm just going to review what I did before. And I just want to make it very clear. And I'm going to touch on the different comments that were raised. And so this is a comparison we did. This is based on policy analysis. This is a factual document that summarizes the 4 areas. These are only just 4 policy areas: immigration, Bank of Canada, political Islam, and trade. There's other areas that we will be looking at, and we will be doing a comparison, the NCA, to the other establishment parties, like the Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, and we will show the difference in policies. And remember, policy details matter. And what doesn't matter, everyone? Remember this. This is your wisdom for today. What doesn't matter is the one-line slogans, the little spins, the one-line tweets. Those don't matter. That's just talk. Remember, when you're looking at a contract, you want to look at the fine print. So when we're running in 2019, we are going to create a contract for the Canadian people. This will be a legal binding contract with the Canadian people. We encourage you to look at our fine print. We have a lot of detail in our policy, and that's something we stand for. That's something we are fully behind. Promises made, promises kept. And that's where we're coming from, the NCA. Enough is enough with the lies. We all remember Trudeau saying yes to everyone, and yet spouting so many lies, right? And we all know about career politicians saying what they think the Canadian people want, and then they're doing something else. So today's to fight back against that and give you the truth. So we divide this up in the basic dichotomy, good versus evil. And we believe there's good in society and evil. There's good in the world and there's evil in the world. This is an important dichotomy. And we also divided up nationalist versus globalist. Non-establishment versus establishment. Non-career politician versus career politician. Policy comparison. So we'll be doing a lot more of these. So NCA, National Citizens Alliance versus PPC. As I mentioned, this is not the People's Party of China, PPC, but this party, People's Party of Canada. So don't get confused by that, though there's some similarities between those parties. But let's go through the immigration here. And I want to be very clear. Some of this is repeating from before, but repeating good substance from before is a good thing. So we want a temporary pause in immigration. We will do that on day one of forming government. And the reason we want a temporary pause, there's an 11-year growing backlog in immigration. It's a huge mess. And a lot of Canadians know that the mess that we're in with immigration, and there's all kinds of money that's spilling out. There's people coming in unvetted. We want a temporary pause. We gotta straighten this mess out from these establishment parties. That's job number one for us. Second, we are committed to 50,000 or less per year, including illegal migrants, refugees, chain migration. We do not support mass immigration. We will implement the 50,000 or less within 1 year of forming government. And as I mentioned before, a key component of this is the deportation of all illegal migrants and zero tolerance for asylum cases from the USA. We will not accept a single asylum case from the United States of America. And we will work with our American counterparts who are being attacked on their southern border through this caravan that's just pushing right into them. So we're very sympathetic to what they're going through. We will work with our American counterparts to amend the Safe Third Country Agreement that basically says that Canada will not accept any asylum cases from the United States. So therefore, under NCA governance, there will be almost no illegal migrants. We will use the Canadian military as necessary to secure our border. We're not against immigrants coming to our country, but they must come in legally. We will not accept illegal migrants at all. They must come legally. We will shut that down. Refugees will be to a limited select numbers. The NCA prioritizes South African farmers. In addition, we prioritize Christians facing persecution and a gradual genocide in the Middle East. Those are our priorities. And a key philosophical point is that the NCA believes that mass immigration is bad for the Canadian economy, bad for the environment, bad for our society. That's what we believe, and we believe this is factual based, and we have different experts in the field that support us on this. Now, if we compare it to the People's Party of Canada, PPC, they support 250,000 immigrants per year, not including refugees and illegal migrants. They also support Harper's historic mass immigration. Harper's historic mass immigration translated into just under 3 million immigrants in 10 years, from 2005 to 2015. And that average was a total of 282,365 per year, which includes illegal migrants and refugees. So that's what you will get under PPC. Mass immigration, close to 300,000 a year. They also say they support stronger border security. We're unclear what that means. There's no details that we can see. And a key philosophical point here, they believe immigration, and by extension mass immigration, is good for the Canadian economy. There's no mention of the environment and society in relation to immigration and mass immigration. So there you got a clear choice between the two different policies. Quite different. And yet you can see the detail right there. Now I'm going to shift to the Bank of Canada. And the National Citizens Alliance view, the Bank of Canada is at the pinnacle of corruption in Canada. In 1971, Pierre Trudeau shifted the public lending right from the Bank of Canada to the central banks, international banks, the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements. And what Pierre Trudeau did, so everyone understands, is prior to 1971, the Bank of Canada belonged to the Canadian people. After 1971, the Bank of Canada belongs to the central banks, to the government. That's what happened. And right now, the Canadian currency is a fiat currency. It's just paper with ones and zeros, and it's being printed by these central banks in secrecy. And every time they print the Bank of Canada currency, it is inflation. It's causing increased cost of living of Canadian families by devaluing the Canadian currency. The National Citizens Alliance supports returning to the true Bank of Canada, which, as I mentioned, Canadians used to own prior to 1971. And we will use the true Bank of Canada to pay back the federal debt at 0% interest, and then use all the savings through the NCA cuts and efficient, effective government to pay back the debt, which is now over $574 billion, and actually 654 billion plus, over 1 trillion in federal debt right now, commercial debt, that is marketplace debt. We will pay that back, and we will create a plan to pay it back through the savings we do by cutting at the federal government. We will issue currency as well at 0% interest. In the long term, we want to get government completely out of currency printing. And we believe it should be in the private sector. Remember, we're going to do a lot more on the Bank of Canada. We have some very good experts in the National Citizens Alliance, and they will be doing presentations on this so you can understand the issue better. If we look at the PPC party, quite frankly, there is no policy on the Bank of Canada. So you got a clear choice right there. If we shift down to political Islam, the National Citizens Alliance views political Islam as a threat to the Canadian people, a threat to our way of life, our society. We believe it is incompatible with our liberties and civil rights. And what we mean by political Islam is Sharia and the implementation of Sharia in Canada. We believe political Islam / Sharia has no place. No place in Canada. Therefore, we support a ban on the practice of political Islam and Sharia in Canada. It is that serious in our opinion. And we need to take a firm stand against it. It violates our true Canadian values. And therefore, it requires a strong stance. And in order to implement the ban on the practice of political Islam, we need to implement an amendment of the Charter, Section 2, that will allow us to do that. And because right now, ideological extremes are hiding behind Section 2, which is the freedom of religion, freedom to practice religion. And we need to put reasonable limits on Section 2. We need to put reasonable limits. Another thing we support is listing the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, because it is a terrorist organization. It's funding terrorism around the world, and it supports a world caliphate of Sharia. So that's something we will do. We will do that within the first 2 weeks of forming government. We will end foreign funding a mosque in Canada. We will stop this foreign money coming in from different countries, different Islamic organizations. We will end that funding. And we also support ideological screening at the border based upon protecting our people and upholding our civil liberties and civil rights. We do not want people coming here who do not share our fundamental values and beliefs. That's why we will have ideological screening. They have no place in Canada. They can practice those beliefs in some other country, but we don't want that cancer in our country. And we will screen to make sure none of these people come in. None of them come in. And related to that, we also support mandatory integration into our basic economy, society, our culture. And we will implement that, and we will follow through. And new immigrants will have a couple years to integrate, to prove at least that they're integrating into our basic cultural norms, our economy, into our society. And if they're not, they will be deported. But we're not going to have an issue with integration, everyone, because we're only accepting 50,000 or less. We're going to get the cream of the crop coming into Canada. That's what we're going to have in Canada. We're going to have great immigrants coming into our country. Great immigrants. Immigrants that are going to contribute to our country, that are going to help build our country, build our prosperity, that are not going to erode our security. We're going to have a great immigration policy. Beautiful immigrants are going to be coming in. The best of the best are going to be coming to Canada. And that's the way it should be. Everyone's going to be honored to have them here. They're going to fit in. They're going to contribute in so many different ways. And this is going to be great for our country. And if I look at the PPC party, there's absolutely no direct mention of political Islam or Sharia at all in their policy details. No mention. So again, you have a clear choice there. And I'm going to shift to the final one here, trade. The National Citizens Alliance supports trade, obviously. Trade is a good thing. People exchanging goods and services. Um, it's about competition and getting products that we can't get, but also selling our products, selling our resources. Trade is a good thing, but it can be abused. The National Citizens Alliance supports smart, fair, equitable trade. Smart, fair, equitable trade. We're not against pure free trade, but we're not naive to think that the world is a perfect place. There's a lot of trade bad practices going on, trade deception, trade fraud going on, such as currency devaluation to get a trade advantage. There's sweatshops in the world where people are being exploited. There's cheap, corrupt products that have contaminants in them that are made cheaply. And we saw this with dog food recently in North America, where it had contaminants in it. We saw it with different food products. There's contaminated agricultural products with glyphosate, GMO contamination, and so forth and so forth. So trade is not a perfect thing. So what we're looking for at the NCA is fair, equitable, smart trade that is in the best interest of our people, that is in the best interest of our country. That is what guides us. If we could have pure free trade in an ideal world, of course, that's something we support. But the world is completely different from that. Like we mentioned, we are pragmatists. The world is completely different. There's all kinds of subsidies, tariffs, trade barriers, um, subsidized products being dumped. Um, there's stealing of secrets, product development secrets. There's all kinds of stuff going on behind the scenes, everyone. But we support smart, fair, equitable trade, and that's what we will work towards. Finally, we oppose globalist trade deals like the Trans Pacific Partnership and globalist so called free trade with China. These global mega trade deals are about government and globalist middlemen. They hurt producers, consumers, and the Canadian worker, and we will oppose them at every turn. And if we compare this now to the PPC party, they're the complete opposite. Everyone, go look at their details. It's all there, unless they try to cover it up now. They support, quote, aggressive free trade, like TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership, and they want globalist free trade with the People's Party of China. And don't be fooled, aggressive free trade really means globalist unfair trade. These are globalist mega trade deals that support multinational companies, they support the government, they support globalist middleman. And so they're the complete opposite of the NCA. So I just wanted to summarize this today. There it is there. And if you have any questions about today's presentation, feel free to reach out to the NCA. We welcome your policy feedback. We are an open party. We believe in doing what's best for the Canadian people, having policies that are in our people's best interest, in our country's best interest. We rely on feedback from our members, supporters, and the public. And we are guided what is more reasonably in the best interest of our people. We are guided by the facts and a strong national stance. Everything is true. What is in the best interest of our people? So by all means, share feedback. You can contact us at info@nationalcitizensalliance.ca, or feel free to call us at 1-833-822-8330. And you can look at our policy details where we are transparent about what we stand for, and go on to our website at nationalcitizensalliance.ca, and you will see it's probably close to 70 policies there that we have on, and there's a lot of detail. And we believe this policy is the cornerstone of the party, what we stand for, what we're offering the Canadian people. So go take a close look. Remember, policy details matter. And if you like this message today, please share it. And we will be doing more policy comparisons to help make sure the Canadian electorate is informed and can make the best decision. At the end of the day, it is up to the Canadian electorate to decide the direction of the country and where we're going. Our job is just to make sure that they're informed. So I want to thank you for joining us today, and God bless to you and your family. And we look forward to having you part of our next live event, which will be occurring shortly. And thank you for listening in, and all the best.